Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the East Brandywine Township Board of Supervisors PM meeting for Thursday, October 17th, 6:30 p.m. Tonight's agenda, just a reminder that a recording device will be used during the meeting, and we're going to start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Does anybody have any public comment for agenda items? Seeing none, we're going to move on to the minutes of the previous meeting and the approval of the October 2nd, 2024 meeting.
Did you mute this? No. Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the October 3rd, 2024 Board of Supervisors meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we've all had an opportunity to look at the bills, and do I have any questions on those?
No? I'll make a motion that we accept the treasurer's report and authorize to pay the bills and approve the payroll.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we do not have a township manager's report, but we will have a township roadmaster's report, so I'll turn that over to Luke for a paragraph in that.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. There's an element of the written roadmaster's report dated October 17th, 2024, which I think needs to be read into the record. It's what would traditionally appear on your agenda as an action item. And it has to do with an update of a culvert replacement that will be funded in part by the Federal Emergency Management Agency and the Pennsylvania Emergency Management Association. Agency. I'm going to read from his report. He said, "We recently signed a proposal for the replacement of the old Horseshoe Pike culvert. The culvert was damaged during Hurricane Ida in September of 2021. We have received FEMA funding in the amount of $416,440 for the replacement." He does not write this, but I will add, also pending is a contribution from the Pennsylvania Emergency Management Agency. The intent of the total project, 100% of the cost of the project, 90 should be covered by FEMA and 10% should be covered by the Pennsylvania Emergency Management Association. It's a little complicated because the bid that we got for design build is more than what the two state and federal agencies calculate the project is. I'm going to continue reading and then I'll return to that concept. The total cost of the Cedarville Engineering Group's proposal is $474,018. The work will be completed under a CoStarz contract, a state contract, number 041-E22-015. I will pass along a schedule of completion once received. The action item that we should take is I would like the board to approve entering into that CoStarz contract for the minutes. Earlier, I started to say, but did not complete a discussion of the total project's budget. I estimate $11,306.88 will be the township's actual contribution to the culvert replacement.
Yeah, and I was under the impression we had a $45,000 to $55,000 originally, so if it is less than that, clearly I'm even more happy.
Right, so the two numbers that are in the report, namely the contract value, which is $474,018, and the FEMA award of $416,440, that's a big gap, but the lion's share of that gap will come after the project when the Pennsylvania Emergency Management Association reimburses us as well.
Understood.
So at this time, I'd respectfully ask the board to enter into a design build contract with Cedarville in the amount of $474,018.
Does anybody have any questions or concerns?
Is this the, it's not a stone bridge, it's a aluminum or something?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a manufactured bridge made out of metal materials. It will be replacing the stone bridge there on Old Horseshoe Pike. Well,
I'm not real happy with the whole thing, so, but I understand
we,
that the government is funding this because they think it should be done, even though it only serves maybe 10 to 12 homes that have exits and entrances already.
I guess the options are, you know, you take the FEMA money and you put it to use, replacing the bridge at a cost to the township of $11,306. Or you do nothing and leave it the way it is, or you forget the hydraulic study that we did, which was a $40,000 hydraulic study that kind of prompted this engineering to say that the existing bridge is inadequate, the culvert's too small, and we had to open up and build a wider span, and then the engineering went from there. And once that engineering was completed, this was where it landed, is essentially. Cedarville kind of handled the
Right,
engineering, Cedarville's handing the design bill,
I
so.
appreciate reminding me of the history, but I'm thinking that bridge survived Floyd, Agnes, Donna, Hazel, all those storms over the last 50, 60 years.
Yeah.
And
Well, I don't disagree with you. You know, again, the options are forget this free, well, I can't say free because everybody pays for it. It's taxpayer money, it's grant money. Forget that and do nothing. Or if we try to repair the stone culvert, you're probably looking at $100,000 out of the township's pocket.
that's not really
And so
an
we're
option.
kind of between a rock and a hard place on how to proceed with this, but it seems as though common sense says just spend 11,000, you get it done. I mean,
And the other thing to consider is what if the next big storm comes in and wipes out what we had there and FEMA says, sorry, we offered you the money then.
yeah,
You're on
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
And the bridge is gonna, I mean, in the state that it's in, I was out there with two different contractors to look at it. And, you know, it's gonna take a lot to repair that bridge, and it's gonna experience further damage. And without having engineering to support the repair,
You'd also have to meet the hydraulic studies.
exactly, and you're not gonna do it with that stone bridge. You've gotta widen the culvert. It's substantially wider.
Does the contract price include the removal of the current bridge?
I thought it was
Yes.
complete. This is,
That's an all-in price.
yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, I hate to lose that bridge. I mean, it's got historical significance. Nobody really knows it's there. Just a lot of stones kind of piled up there, but
All right.
I don't know
Well,
what else to do here.
I appreciate you taking the time to answer my questions.
All right, so I make a motion for the work to be completed under CoStar's contract 041-E22-015. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, I'm going to turn it over to the police chief.
Good evening. Detective Shepard and Kyle Harsh conducted a retail theft training for all of the administrative and supervisory staff at Props Market. Topics covered include a PowerPoint presentation on the PA retail theft law and the different types and methods of retail theft in the supermarket environment. And it also included steps that the employee should take during a retail theft incident. The Department of Justice has notified the police department that we have been approved for a ballistic vest training in the amount of $3,950. In 2024, we are due to replace 7 of the officers' ballistic vests, and these monies represent a 50% match to the township funding set aside for the new vests. Additional grant applications will be filed in 2025 and 2026 in order to complete the 5-year replacement cycle for the PD. Monthly statistics for September, we had 2,443 events recorded. Department conducted 178 investigations. We had 4 criminal arrests on summary arrests, 2 warrant arrests. There were no juvenile petitions. We investigated 8 traffic accidents. Officers issued 168 traffic citations, 95 traffic warnings, and the officers logged 9,636 miles of patrol. A training this month, the entire police department, we went through a pipeline refresher training, which we're required to do every couple of years. So all the officers have completed that. There was no correspondence for the month, and you have your monthly investigations attachment and the officer certificate.
Thank you. I'll turn it over to the fire department now, please.
Thank you. Is the new mic on? Report for September 2024. We had 57 total incidents for the month, 27 fire, 30 total medical. In East Brandywine Township, we had 6 fire calls, 11 medical. We had 3 trainings with 23 people in attendance for a total of 136 hours of training. We had 10 volunteer firemen per call, 14 for major incidents. Last evening, we were able to have our firehouse open house that was very well attended. I want to thank Terry right here for allowing us to park in his parking lot, Heritage Metalworks and Pizza Mia for overflow parking in all those lots. We did have a significant auto accident in Hideaway Farms that resulted in a pediatric flight out of the township. That was in the middle of the week. And also last night, I wanted to thank Chief Cozy. The police department was instrumental in helping us close the road down during our rescue extrication demonstration. Thank you.
Very much. And Maquist, if you have one, please.
Good evening. Pretty steady month for us, about 500 calls. You guys have it in your packet there. So it's sustaining over the last 2 months. It's been quite busy for us. Community events are starting to wrap up for the fall seasons. Fire prevention this month, as the fire committee attests to. And then just a little tidbit of information. October is sudden cardiac arrest month. If you don't know what that is, it's the medical emergency occurs when the heart suddenly stops beating. So this month, as well as every other month of the year, it's either good to be certified in CPR, and you have the resources around the township. So
Thank you very much. All right, we don't have any old business. For new business, we have representatives from the Parks here today for playground equipment in the community park. So I'll turn it over to Sam Lammy and David Summers, please.
Good evening.
We're kind of here tonight to refresh the all abilities playground situation that was started back in mid-2023. Please continue.
Microphone isn't on. People watching the YouTube video might be wondering what.
So anyway, Sandy Lammy is with me, and this is Carol Carter, is also one of our Park and Rec board members. So anyway, a little history. This project started back in mid-2023 with a request to the Board of Supervisors from Hideaway Farms resident Lauren Rodolfo for an all-abilities playground to meet the needs of all children, including those with disabilities. Lauren started working on the project, but unfortunately, early in 2024, Lauren had hoped to spearhead the project, and she had some family health concerns and basically had to step away from the project in the beginning of 2024. So the Park and Rec Board has taken the lead on the project to replace the aging playground equipment in Phase 2 of the community park, as well as replace the tot lot playground in Phase 1. Our current playground equipment does not provide for children or adults with disabilities, and that would include our Spatola Park as well. We also have a playground unit in Spatola Park. Sandy's showing the current location for the tot lot, which was removed. The Parks and Rec members have reviewed our current playground areas and equipment and ultimately determined that our current equipment and grounds not only needed to be updated, but also replaced because of deterioration. Our request here is really a need, it's not a want. Our equipment is really in pretty poor condition. Sorry Matt's not here, he could attest to that for us. Our phase one, our tot lot in phase one was closed and removed because of broken and rusted parts. And that was somewhat in good timing because of the construction of the new comfort station, which by the way is still not completed. But as we reviewed the need for the All Abilities Playground, inspection of the playgrounds by actual officials of playground equipment also indicated that the playground equipment in phase two of the park was also showing rust and deterioration. And most recently, we've had to order some new replacement parts, and we are actually closing one of the slides there because we can't get the replacement parts. And to replace that slide, it's called a roller slide, it would cost $15,000. We just couldn't see justifying that expense when we're moving on to something different. So just to provide some history, our phase one playground, which you see up here, that was installed in 1992. It's 32 years old. Our phase two playground was installed in 1998, so it's 26 years old. And that's a photo of some very much younger, slimmer people. One of them was Jim Worrell, I think one of them was Scott. One's Bill King. I'm not going to identify the rest. So anyway, the basic difference between the regular playground equipment, this is the tot lot that had to be removed from phase one. You can see that they're steel plates and they're covered with a rubberized surface, but they rotted through the bottom, and it was just totally unsafe for the little people. So basically, the difference between the regular playground and the All Abilities playground is primarily the equipment, but also the surface that goes in. The rubberized surface and the ramping, which allow for handicapped access, and actually all handicapped access. So this rubberized surface, well, that's phase two, but can you back up to that for Sandy for 1 second? So if you, no, just the one, go forward. Okay. So that's the roller slide that has to come out. Matt's guys have screened that off and put a piece of wood in there temporarily till we can get, we've ordered an actual piece that closes that section off. One more for me, Sandy. Okay, we'll use that one. You see that all those posts for the playground are actually concreted in, and then with this new rubberized surface, just using this as an example, this is our existing playground in phase two when it was constructed, but basically they poured that rubberized surface right around and sealed all the posts. And a couple of the other pieces that we're looking at that would set in concrete. Anyway, that's It's a sealed rubberized surface that encompasses all the equipment. And it's, yeah, I guess the rubberized surface has a 5-year warranty. And the parks that we visited that have this rubberized surface, some of them are as much as 15 years old. And I spoke with the borough manager at Boyertown, where they've had their rubberized surface in place for 14 years. And I was up there recently, and it shows wear, but it's certainly usable. Anyway, the Park and Rec board members have visited similar playgrounds, both in and out of the area, to best determine what our needs were based on reasonable budget projection. Our research of All Buildings Playground has taken us to facilities in Upper Perkiomen, which is the Black Rock Playground, which is a recent build, East Goshen Township, Coatesville's Intermediate Unit, Westchester's Everhart Park, Boyertown Community Park, and Downingtown's Kerr Park. The project proposed now is to replace the current playground, which is 45 by 60 in phase 2. That's 2,700 square feet, and that's the one-piece unit you saw going in there 20-some years ago in its entirety, and move the playground to the southeast near the Bond Pavilion, increasing the size to about 4,000 square feet. And that is to provide for the equipment for the children with all abilities and the rubberized surface. So, not to digress too far, but you're looking at these pieces of playground unit. In today's environment, we have to have an area around each one of those units, which is called a safety zone. And that's why it's spread out so far. And we tried to get, we tried to use the existing area where the playground in phase 2 is, but we just couldn't configure it correctly, and there was not enough space. That's why the move to the southeast of the Bond Pavilion, the new space. Mrs. Rondolfo had started to work with General Recreation out of Newtown Square, who is a CoStar's vendor. So we've continued having them assist us in determining what equipment was most suitable for our situation. The additional space is needed, as I indicated, to project for the safety areas. And we did try to fit into the current location, but that didn't work. I've also been in touch with the Brandywine Conservancy regarding the impervious surface restrictions, and we remain within the limits there. Our phase 1 tot lot would just be a one-piece unit using a regular safety mulch, not the rubberized surface. So now, hold on to this one. The total cost for the project is currently estimated at $548,000. Phase 2 equipment, and $30,000 for the phase 1 tot lot equipment. Could be slightly more depending upon when the equipment is ordered and installed. We would like to do the tot lot replacement as soon as possible. And the other phase 2, the larger project, it appears that that's going to get pushed into 2026 for a start. And that's due to grant funding. But certainly a 2025 start would be fantastic. And when I say the grant writing, we have to close the grant for the current restroom project. And the 2025 funding for the DCNR, DCED grants does not start till the spring of 25 and will not be awarded until the fall of 25. So therefore, you're kind of looking at 2026 as a target, putting a shovel in the ground, if you will. And then just to kind of break down that $500,000 number, The landscape, this is a quote directly from Landscape Structures. The equipment's $200,000. Installation of the equipment is $77,000. The safety turf is $148,000. Site preparation, including the stone base, we're looking at $69,000. And they're quoting a freight cost to deliver the equipment of $55,000. And that brings us to a total of $548,000. I think some of those numbers are a little high. Some might be a little low by the time we get there, but that is the official quote, if you will. And also then the tot lot in phase one, we're estimating a cost there of about $30,000. We can actually purchase a smaller unit and get it installed, I'm sure, for $30,000. So then we kind of look at how are we going to fund this project. As I indicated, the grants for DCNR and DCED for process in 2025 would be $250,000, hopefully. We're looking at a request from the township of $200,000. The East Brandywine Foundation Parks and Rec account, $100,000, and the fundraising activities and donations of $30,000. And then we also hope to do some other grant writing besides the DCNR and the DCED. So where that comes out, we really don't know at this point. So I guess our ask here tonight is, can we get some type of commitment from the township so we can continue to write grants and request funds? And that's pretty much.
Just one of the questions that I had, my question was, can this be done in phases? Meaning, in other words, the swing sets, for instance. The swing sets don't have to have rubberized, we had them on the pine mulch before, but could we do the swing sets phase one if it were an out-of-pocket expense for the township, and then wait for the grants for the bigger ticket items?
This quote is that's all rubberized surface. So if you look at that swing set, if you see the bigger blue swing in the center, that's called a gen swing. That's for handicapped children. The zip line, which is to the upper right corner, there's another gen chair swing in there for handicapped children. So they have to, and then to the far left is that round thing, that is what they call a we-go round, and that is for, yeah, thanks, Sandy. That is also handicapped accessible. You can wheel a wheelchair right onto that, and then right below that is also a seesaw for, there should be one, and it's in the lower corner, seat for a handicapped child. So the short version of that is that whole surface is handicapped accessible for a wheelchair and handicapped. So I guess the answer to your question is no. It could be, but it wouldn't be handicapped accessible.
Right, now the handicapped accessible has to be under the rubberized.
Sorry?
The handicapped accessible has to be under the rubberized.
Yes.
And I guess bonding those like they have, looks to be a blue and a light green rubberized, and that's probably bonded together.
That's just the demonstration. I think we should do all one color, honestly. But it is kind of nice to do two. And
I think the color too, the green area, there's more activity there because of the swings. So I think it helps people stay away from swings that are moving, whereas the other things are not quite, they're not going to move out and hit a child or an adult in that area. It helps define it.
I was part of this initial
discussion with Ms. Rodolfo, and it's a shame that she's unable to help, but I know she had ideas of some possible donors in the beginning process. I don't know if that's still an option to reach out to any of them. And as I told her in the beginning, I feel like it was 2-3 years ago we started talking about this. Maybe I'm off a little bit, but
It was 2023.
yeah.
We were here.
Yep, and I feel like the township's been behind the 8 ball with regards to the all access for children with disability forever. So I think it's fantastic, and I think the township needs to find a way to make this to work for everybody. Do you guys have any questions?
Yeah, I have a few. Does this represent all of the equipment, or is this just over?
No, that's all the equipment in the quote.
Okay, good. My first reaction is I wouldn't want to put a tot lot or younger child playground that's handicap accessible close to the older children. The older children are going to come over and just trash and overuse the tot lot.
No, I apologize. Maybe I confused you.
Universal.
The tot lot goes in phase 1 next to the new bathrooms where we took the tot lot out. This is phase 2, just the all abilities
All
playground.
abilities.
The tot lot is not here.
So this is phase 2, including the handicap stuff for
That's correct.
older kids.
Phase 1 is just one
All right,
small.
so you have the tot lot separated, okay.
Right, it's in phase 1. Phase 2 is where the all abilities playground will be.
The price you quoted is for both phases.
That total 578 was for both phases,
Okay.
yes.
I'm sorry, let me just chime in. We have one expenditure possibly in 2025, which is the tot lot in phase 1, which is at the north end of the image we're looking at now, and that's $30,000.
That's correct.
Okay, and then we're looking at an expenditure in the 548,000
Correct.
in phase
For
2,
phase 2.
which is shown down there. The project that the 548,000, we're leveraging grant funding and private fundraising. One would be a grant that we haven't written because we're not eligible until we close out the bathroom grant. And that's a C2P2 grant from DCNR.
The bathroom's still being held up by all the state regulations?
By the drinking water system, yes. If successful at writing a C2P2 grant, it will pay half of the costs, which is, I think, the $250 that you referenced in your presentation. The Parks and Rec maybe is too modest to talk about it, but they're extremely successful in fundraising and have a balance that's contained in the township's partner East Brandywine Foundation 501c3 account, of which you are proposing, was it 38 or 48,000?
100,000.
100,000 from the foundation? Okay. Okay. It's certainly there. They are very good at fundraising.
Yep.
And I would submit that while we have no in-house experience in writing these grants, there is a universe of grants that we've been assured exist because the project intersects with certain funding agencies that are dedicated to all abilities. And the fact that the project is an all abilities playground set opens up a range of grant funding that we have no experience with, but assume is there.
Yeah, and I think tonight, it's hard to put a dollar figure on an ask, but today is an ask to, can we go ahead and step forward with the grant application? Can we go ahead and start planning this process out? And I think the other thing is, can we, as a township, put this in the mile marker and look for donations and start the ball rolling on our end for the little portion of this?
May I, Dave? I'm sorry, I'm stealing your thunder here, but Parks and Rec already is fundraising. For example, the most recent golf outing included a fundraising goal, which included this.
Oh, yeah, no,
So-
Parks and Rec is doing, but I'm saying the township proper, can we start putting this in the mile market saying we need donations because this is something that's going to occur in the next year or year and a half?
Sure, and that will let people know that we have a foundation.
Yeah.
Can you donate to the foundation?
I think as long as they donate and they put on the memo that it was for playground or Parks and Rec, then.
I would phrase it this way. We're looking at potentially buying a very expensive capital purchase in 2026, over $500,000. And what we're trying, well, what I would like to see happen is that there's no sticker shock. We're all dedicated to leveraging the most matching funds that we can find from a variety of sources. But we don't want to get to 2026 and everybody's like, well, how much? Because it's a very expensive project.
We all understand that, and half of that's hopefully going to be covered by a grant. My problem is making a commitment tonight is premature, because next week we do the capital funding for the budget. And your ask for 2025 is more than reasonable to fit into probably what we come up with to recommend to the supervisors of the budget committee. But to do it now without knowing what,
Well, I understand.
You can break.
Yeah, I understand that.
not that,
But
it shouldn't be done out of context, I guess.
But when you're applying for some of these grants, they want to know how much is the township going to contribute to this as well? And that's kind of where.
Well, we can give you an answer in the next supervisors meeting.
Well, I guess, Dave, just from my understanding, this entire project is estimated at $548,000.
Phase 2.
Just phase 2.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, so
And his
30.
ask is for phase 1 here.
30,000 is for phase 1 for the tot lot.
Correct.
And that's for today. Is that what we're, okay, just to
That's what I
zero in on exactly where the numbers are landing.
That would be the ideal situation, because this time of year, I know I get, as well as Sandy, we get a ton of literature from these playground people who are having fantastic sales. And the piece that we're looking at for phase 1, tot lot, is not that big. And I don't even anticipate we would spend that much money, but that's the ask.
So the fundraise and the
25.
grants, fundraising the grants would be for for phase 2, the 548.
Correct.
And you've got 100 in a capital reserve? Is that my,
We don't.
Foundation.
That's
To that?
appropriate.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna just comment on phase 1. The replacement for the tot lot that we lost with the construction of the bathroom. It can be funded, it can, as in there is a balance available. It remains to be seen whether the board approves it, so I don't want to speak for the board on that. But it could be funded entirely within the township's capital reserve in next year, $30,000. It is not currently proposed that we leverage other funding sources for that scope of service. We just buy it.
yeah.
And I agree with everything Lucas said. My concern is now all the other committees will come in and try to supersede the budgeting process. We don't even know how much money we have to commit to capital, but I'm sure this would be, if not, after some of the police stuff that's needed, and a project here in the township building, I'm sure this would be the number one next in line.
Well, I would think we would definitely want to do this, replace the tot lot for sure. I mean, and that planning process obviously should start sooner than later. And as
It's going to
Dave,
be next week.
okay,
The meeting's set. Questions are in. It's hard to explain until you come through to working on the budget, but we don't even know what we have to put into the capital fund. till next week. And like I said, there's probably $300,000 that would be more critical than this. But after that, once the committee puts it together, when's the preliminary budget have to be presented?
Okay, so we'll say there's 3 more deadlines before the end of the year.
Right.
One, at the AM meeting, the first week of November, the Budget Committee will present a draft budget to the board,
Including capital.
including capital, and will solicit the board's feedback. At your second meeting in November, the board will be asked to adopt a preliminary budget. That's the one that's advertised for public comment. At your second meeting in December, right before Christmas, we will need to adopt a budget for next year. So those are there are 4, this is amazing to say, there's only 4 board meetings left in 2024. 3 of them will feature discussions about the budget.
And I'd be willing on the first one, when they present the budget, as a supervisor, to say, yes, I want to commit to that $30,000. So that's approximately 2 weeks from today. And that's just me being the conservative accountant.
Barring any life-changing events, is 2 weeks too late?
7th and the 21st.
If I may be so bold, if I can convert this into a couple action items. I'm going to start with phase 2. I think with the sort of direction that would be helpful to the board, or to the Parks and Recreation Board, would be, we understand that there's multiple steps to get to a purchase 2 years from now. You may proceed with fundraising requests and marketing materials soliciting contributions towards this project. I would set some kind of goal for the amount as a percentage of the project in 2026 that will be paid for with East Brandywine Township tax dollars, which is to say, you could say something to the effect of, we expect 75% of the project to be paid through by grants that you find, 15% through private fundraising through the foundation, and 10% through the township. I just made those numbers up, but that's the sort of way that we can proceed and still give ourselves some decisions about.
The other thing too is 2025 is our difficult year. Which you'll see in the budget presentation. 2026, we will have more money.
And then as it relates
Assuming that the supervisors don't go wild and spend on, jet propelled.
With all the fundraising potential and the grants that are going to be requested here, I mean, you've got a recreational lot here and playground equipment that's been in place for 32 years, and that's, based on $548,000, that's $17,000 a year of investment. I mean, I would think the township's contribution to that is going to be substantially less.
No, I understand, but I think that.
We're expecting this to last how many
Just
years?
I'm sorry we got into phase 2, because really the ask is phase 1, that's what we're talking about.
But I think it's important to get the ball rolling on phase 2 as well, and make sure that the Parks and Rec understands.
And that's why I wanted to go through the budget committee, so they can start budgeting that in there and say, okay, here's what we can allocate. It's a 5-year capital budget.
Right, well, so barring, as I said, any craziness that happens in the next 2 weeks, we can give you this answer in 2 weeks, and I can already tell you I'm a hard yes.
Oh, I'm a hard yes too, I don't want other,
Like what Luke said.
I don't want other asks.
I just,
to try to
more or less looking for your blessing to continue with the project so we can file for additional grants.
And I don't see why we
And
can't do that.
but if we
Right.
need a dollar commitment, can we work with something somewhere along the line?
in 2 weeks.
We're talking about 2026. for phase two.
All right, I thought we separated the two.
I thought,
Separate, keep them separate.
Okay.
okay,
And the answer is still yes, even on phase two, you'll know when the budget presentation is made.
So I would say at the very least, let's go ahead and start the process rolling for the grant applications, the advertising, again, I think the township should have this on the mile marker asking for assistance as well, because you never know who you're gonna get off of the mile marker who's looking to donate something or had a substantial windfall and says this is a perfect application.
yeah, I understand, but we certainly didn't want to put anything out there that you haven't blessed.
Yeah, and I bless your
I think
project.
we all want to bless it, I just want to do it within the apparatus we have set up to fiscally.
Well, I think we're being asked to support this tonight, right?
Yep, and you have my
Okay.
support.
And I think that, we're all,
Oh, I'm willing to
Okay.
take a vote on support, I'm not
Yeah.
willing to take a vote on committing dollars.
Dollar amount.
yeah, and I think that's all they're asking, right?
And Carl will have an answer for us in the next 2 weeks on where we can be financially too, and then we at least can build off of that number. Everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Thank you guys very much for everything you're doing, and this is fantastic.
Luke, you
Yeah.
okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm being a little pedantic on just making sure everybody's on the same page.
Right,
Okay,
you had that look.
at the
that's why I
risk of
asked.
ripping this Band-Aid open again, I want to make sure.
So rip it open.
We are considering funding phase one in the amount of 30,000 out of the capital fund next year.
2025.
We support the concept generally, but won't know if funds are available to fund that until we adopt a preliminary and final budget. That will occur in the next 2 months. But I hear orally, there's a lot of support for the phase one project.
Yes.
But we'll know
There's a lot of
that,
support for
that
both.
vote
Yeah.
will actually occur at 3 of the next 4 meetings.
I'm not really concerned with the phase one situation. I think
Okay.
that's, my major concern is to get the
Okay, so-
approval to move forward and the blessing for phase two. That's the big number.
Right.
That's the one we have to attack.
And so if I could summarize just kind of where I feel like the consensus is on phase two, there's an understanding that the large playground in phase two of the community park needs to be replaced. After doing some research, Parks and Rec has determined that an all-abilities playground in a slightly different location than the existing one, in a project that will cost approximately $548,000, of which there is intent to secure grant funding, will occur. So we just need to know that that happens so that when next spring we show up with a grant application to DCNR, it's not unexpected.
Agreed.
Fair enough, I agree.
Cool. Then that sounds like consensus to me.
That's a consensus. We agree.
Thank you guys very much for. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to, I believe that's it. I think we just have the notice, that there was an executive session held following the Board of Supervisors 10-3 meeting. Is it 10-3 or 10-2?
I think it's 10-3.
10-3 meeting.
10-3.
A meeting to discuss real estate and legal issues. So wanted that to be noted. And do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.